to set up an internet scam. I'm using this pillow talk to learn sales. Oh yeah, just come up with an elevator speech. Give it to people. They'll probably give you money or hire you if you say it enough.
It's not hard.
It's not hard. It's not hard to learn other people's cultures and foods. Thank you, doctor. Um, so I,
Hello! Okay, so this has been a long time coming, but I'm finally ready to share the results of Seedy location. Yay!
I'm going to do a net thing called hostile executive. CD location is dead. Long live hostile executive. Hell yes, yes. Is this the premiere?
Okay. What Seedy location lacks is context. I'm going to try and give you that context now. If this is the first video you're watching, I apologize right off the bat. It's been a whole long thing. The point is, on my channel, you'll notice a lot of really rubbish videos. And they're rubbish due to my lack of skill, obviously. We'll not pretend about that. But what would it look like if a hacker or runner actually tried to do the thing that they were trying to do in the Cyberpunk game of the same name?
Are we getting this information in front of everybody
we might
else?
Be in the first episode of Hostile Executive right now.
Hey, oh, whoa, that's some meta shit. I agree with that though. That would be pretty cool. Maybe what we could do is
I like this in the write-up. I just see the
Do things poorly. I try to find truth. I try to discover card patterns, get interviews, and make an effective change. How is this relevant to Netrunner? Well, if you take, say, a shaper, for example, thematically, shapers are doing it for the love of the code, trying to find something new or become the best runner out there. They also have the agenda cards where they try and find meaning and attain by sacrificing agenda, and they get 2 points for it. I will try and put these on the screen. There has been a lot of confusion because I had trouble understanding a few things because the way I was raised, and that is my responsibility, no one else's, so don't worry about that. There's a whole mental well-being thing. The point is, I was trying to understand what was wrong. Me, the world, or whatever. Finally figured it out. I was mildly depressed. But why was I mildly depressed? Because I didn't understand the rules of the game. Now, I don't hate people, but I didn't understand why they were doing the things they would do. So, to figure this out, I set upon a path of getting information the best way I knew how. I played a game. Now, if any of you have played an RPG before, what do? What's the optimum route? You talk to all the characters, get all the information, then you make choices. Only difference is, in real life, you're making choices that you don't realize you're making. And this does relate to Netrunner, and I will show you how. This relates to Netrunner, mostly because I did this in the format of Netrunner. I used it as a metaphorical bridge to give context, because I find that most of my actions lack context. Because how can you tell someone in a few minutes or less that you are literally experimenting on them? You can't. You can't just go up to someone and say, hey, I'm mentally ill, I don't understand what you're doing, and I don't understand what's going on. This is what I think is happening. What do you think is happening? I have thoughts and feelings, I don't have to communicate them. Can you please help me out here? You could say all that, but it doesn't really get across the gravitas of the situation. So I sat and I thought about it for a really, really, really long time. I lack context. That was the biggest thing that I got out of this. And so I tried to give context by being a runner, finding truth. And I got some very, very interesting results. This right now is the result.
All right. Anyways, I'm going to play in this American Continentals and probably win it. And then Spags will win the European one. No, APAC. And then no one will win this because the UK is there. No, I'm kidding. I love the UK. The only thing I like about the UK is Jason.
Well, no, they're not a part of Europe anymore.
And oh God, that was a little bit too soon and too real, but I also agree. But Jason and Rotage, can you two just get out of there and come live with me? I got a whole extra room. You two can fight for it. It'll be great.
All of you, even if this is the first time you're watching this video, you are also part of the result.
And Trash Black. Okay. Damn it, Damon! Stop reading my mind! Stop reading my mind! Thank you. This is yes. Make the click, yes, because that makes them lose a click effect. That will make them waste a click. That actually matters. Yes, that's pretty much another form of CD scan location. That's just a better designed form of CD location scan, because. Yeah, you take the brain damage or you lose the click, and yeah, that's even better. That's way better than seed location scan. That is way better. And I mean, you think that seed location scan's overpowered? No, this is way better than seed location scan. This is way better. Thank you. That's okay. Yeah. This is all worth it. This was.
From the start of the channel, I tried to find a format because that's what you're supposed to do, and I did not expect to be very good at it, which is fine. But what surprised me was how good everyone else was. There were so many netrunner channels out there that had quality content. Not one of them was really rubbish or poor. Okay, some definitely better than others, like One Last Click, that Phoenix Team Covenant. There's lots of good content out there. The Metropolitan Grid. There's lots. I can't mention them all. There's just so many. All good. Where was the bad content? Why was my channel the only one that was really poorly produced? What was I missing? So I sat about finding out. And what surprised me, really, because of how cynical I was how nice everyone was. But for some reason that irked and disturbed me. Because all the content I was seeing was really good. Mine was clearly very bad. And yet everyone was like, well, a fair amount of people still liked it, which is fine. They thought it was cute, they put it into a little corner and whatnot. But the subject matter is what troubled me. It's CD location. It is literally the underbelly of stuff you don't want to discuss. Literally. I mean, all the content over here, nice and shiny and clean. My content, dirty, gritty, and it gets on your skin and it's like, and you can't wash it off, and then it's like, oh, it's there now. I better not touch that again. What surprised me is how many people still interacted with me, because everyone I've met in general tends to be really, really nice. And it came to really help me a bit understand that in general and in principle, people want to be good. They may not always be able to be good, but if they had the choice and it was like equal, didn't really cost them anything, be nice or bad, they would rather be nice, as long as it didn't like overly exert them or cause them any real mental strain. But they'll try and help. And even in some cases when it did cause them some effort, they would still try and help, at least try and understand if there was something that they could do, you know. And that was a really big eye opener, and that was the reason why I thought, yeah, okay, even though I have urges to do things that are not so good, and I tended to do things that were not so good, you know, in general, I've got to try and be good, because if everyone else can be good, there's got to be something good, and they could still produce all this stuff. There's got to be something to it. Anyway, so I could understand things at 2 levels. There are 5 levels to consciousness. Many people will tell you how to define consciousness. Well, here's how I define consciousness. Understanding things on these 5 levels. Level 1. Do you have an understanding of the concept of something, of a good outcome and a bad outcome from your perspective? Not from my perspective, from at least your perspective. If you can understand things from, if you can make a calculation and have an understanding based on whether something's good or bad for you, you know, that's like level 1. The children can do this. A child, you know, you give a child some, like a sweet or something like that, is a sweet good or bad? It tastes good because it tastes good, and, you know, like have reasons why it's a good thing. AI can work this out to some degree by playing, and they'll do random actions and search for like a goal. Like if you watch on YouTube, there's like an AI plays Mario, and it basically just runs along, dies. It's okay, so this action brings up, and it just keeps on iterating over and finding the best course of action depending on how far they can get. And they can work out to some degree how far you can get. That's level 1. You need at least all 5 levels to be truly conscious. So I started on level 1, finding out good and bad stuff, and I did this through the thing of an AI, because AI is amoral. It's not fully conscious because it can do things up to level 2. AI cannot get past level 3, 4, or 5. Yeah, so I started to take action. You know, I would do and say stuff based upon what I hear and see how these people, which I deem to be good, based upon the actions they'd taken with me. Now, some things were met with fear and confusion. And it's like, it took me a while to understand why these things, it's like, no, but these are my true thoughts and feelings. And they're like, yeah, but they couldn't exactly voice why this was a bad action, because it would probably take like a whole hour to explain the history and the context and all that stuff to go through. And so I'd see the bad reaction, and I would like have to go back and think about it. And it's like, oh, okay, so it's good for me, but it's not good for this person because it gives them some sort of responsibility, some sort of onus, and some sort of stuff they clean up in their life. And it's like, okay, and it took me a long time to figure that out. Yeah, duh, it's not just all about you. And I was like, yeah, but like I said, I just say something, they can just ignore it. It's like, no, they can't ignore it because they have responsibility and they want to care and they want to look after you. Duh, so they've got to, you know, clean this up mentally, and you're changing their world somehow because they thought the world was like this, but you come along with all this darkness and bafflement, and it's like now they've got to reconcile that. And it takes a, and to be fair, most people didn't just want to just ring it around me. And I tried to give people an easy out, saying, oh, I'm just ill, so just help me out. Anyway, but it's like, people are not there to help you out. They're there to play Netrunner. And yes, this is still about Netrunner. This is still about Netrunner. Because my agendas was to get information and figure all this stuff out and just be a better person. Because I make runs on FFG, and I've learned some very good, interesting things about FFG. Level 1, do you understand good and bad? Next level. Level 2, order and chaos. You see this a lot in stuff like Babylon 5, when you got I won't have to spoil it, because Babylon 5 is actually a very good program. It deals with stuff on like, it gets to around level 3 or 4 level of understanding. It helps you understand that a little bit. But anyway, order and chaos. Once you have like a list of things that are good and a list of things that are bad, you start to build up a wall to protect your good stuff and keep out the bad stuff. Like having a house. Inside your house, you know what's going to happen, relatively speaking, because you've ordered it so. So inside my house, I know no one's going to come in and take my stuff, relatively speaking. Unless some chaos comes in and breaks the windows and someone steals stuff, that could happen, but that is highly, highly unlikely given that the other houses are around here and that we know everyone around here. So there's a sense of order. We know what's happening in this space. I did not have that on some occasions because I was in chaos because I could not understand why I had this thing and I tried to imitate what others would. I tried to imitate and be myself, and it's like, why does my thing have this reaction when I was expecting another reaction? So again, I made some poor content. I was expecting people not to like it, but I was expecting people to treat me in a certain way, and I was expecting like certain outcomes, but I didn't get those outcomes, so I was in chaos because I didn't understand what was happening. And it's like I noticed people have had their own order, and it seemed like they make the content, and they have their certain outcomes I was expecting, but I don't understand how they did it. So I was in chaos because I was in a place where I didn't understand how this was happening, and I was trapped there. So I was permanently trapped on level 2 of understanding and consciousness. So I wasn't understanding things because I couldn't understand people. I've got an understanding now because I've done enough good and I've done enough stuff. Throw shit at the wall, see what sticks. I've done that enough times. I've built up a list of good things, a list of bad actions, and it's like, okay, so these are the rules now. Because before I was told that if you just study, you get good grades, you'll get a job and whatnot, and you'll be fine. And I was thinking, yeah, I'll be fine. I'm smart if I can do the job. But it didn't work that way. Just because you can do the job doesn't mean you're not going to get hired for the job, because people generally have to like you, and I wasn't very likable. For an example, I was raised around some French people and a lot of hugging and kissing, and sometimes I'd hug and kiss people without like, it's like I literally just met you hugging, kissing. It's like, that's a bit too much. That's a bit too, no one wants that. I mean, if you walk on the street and if you meet someone for the first time, you're not going to expect them to kiss you. I mean, it would be nice if it was an attractive person, but I'm just a person. No one wants to be randomly hugged and kissed by some person they don't know. No one likes that. And I'm sorry if I ever did that to you. Again, different cultures, different contexts. Have to learn not to do that. So I had to learn to not do that because, yeah, not everyone wants that. Took a while to learn that, and I'm sorry. And I found out that sometimes I come off as I'm trying to flirt with people, when I'm really just trying to engage in conversation and trying to get to know you better, trying to stay in a conversation as long. And I found that flirting tends to work sometimes. That's what people do. You're like, and it's like that's the wrong kind of relationship for what you want, and it's like miscommunication there, and it scares people. It's like, okay. Anyway, order and chaos. Having predictable outcomes in a space or in a place. When you're in a place where you don't understand what's going on, you're in chaos. And people try and create a sense of order around them so that they can live and function and do what they need to do. And in Netrunner, you go to Netrunner meetups to play Netrunner, and you don't go there for necessary life lessons, which I was there for, which is the wrong context. But I was trying to do this in the form of a Netrunner. I was literally going out to people playing an RPG, going, hey, okay, so this is what I think is happening. Let's play a card game and whatnot. Level 3. It took me a while to figure out level 3. This was the big one. Responsibility versus meaning. You have an artist. They create a piece of painting. They are not necessarily responsible for anyone else. They can be responsible for a cat or whatnot. But the main thing is meaning. They create this piece of art. It has a meaning. People see this piece of art. They interact with it in a certain way. It gives like, if it has a certain meaning to them. For example, if you listen to a song, like David Bowie sings songs, and it's like, what does it mean? I don't know. It affects my life somehow because I've seen this now. This brings new meaning to my life, and it's like I've got a new tool to play with, and you hear a new message. And it's like Netrunner did that for me. Netrunner, because there were certain things I didn't know you could do in game design. I mean, this asymmetry, I didn't know you could do that. I mean, like the one person's building one thing, one person's thing. I had no concept of that before. I mean, the ability to have an ID, and it's like you can pick an identity, you can identify with it. That's such a good thing. It's so amazing. And it's like, oh, this person's kind of like this ID, this person's kind of like that ID. And I found that different types of people identify with netrunner in different types of ways. I found that this is just stereotypically me, right? I found that black people I played with mostly, that they tended to gravitate around an ID or a faction that represented them. For me, it was Custom Baltics and Exile. So Custom Baltics really. I met a person named William Brown in America. He identified with Wayland, and he had these kick-ass gloves. He had money sleeves. It was so cool.
With your receipts, we'll mark it off. Make it look all pretty. Hold on, Jarvis.
So sorry. Thank you very much. That was excellent. Okay, I got what I needed. So you've got to see this, man. You've got to see this. That sleeve just...
This isn't very cool because I built it at 8:20 this morning and I'm going to wait for 12 minutes. Yeah. Like how that could have done. But it's okay.
And it was so sick. It was nice. And he did some wicked combos. And there was a person I played with in Coventry, and he identified with Silhouette because again, she was the only real black character at the time. Real black character. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. The people were building around the IDs, and in general, it's like there were definitely black people that didn't build around the IDs, identify the game that way, but some did. There were people that identified with the meta. They always wanted to play what is perceived to be the strongest deck, the competitive nature. There were people that were there to play casual and meet people and have fun. They all identified with Netrunner in a new way. And I was there for the love of the game, love of the mechanics of the game. And it made a great medium to get to meet people. But the other side of the spectrum is responsibility. Because the game had all this mean to me, I was being neglectful of the responsibility on the other end of the spectrum. So, like I said, I was awkward, and people would have to babysit me sometimes. And that placed a burden of responsibility on others. And this made people feel uncomfortable sometimes. And I didn't realize this. It took me so long to learn this. So long to learn this. Anyway. You meet someone and they're a parent, and that changes them because now they have a sense of responsibility. Creating art and all this stuff and finding meaning that way, there's no point. No, I ain't got time for that. Got to be responsible. Hey, it's fine, don't. It was really weird. So, it's fine. Come in. It's fine. And it was so weird.